Hey guys, so this is your trainer Anirudh Chhillar. So we are back with one more video of OSPF. I hope you are learning in a good way and a good pace. So let's go for the next video.
That's why it is having this metric 20 here. However, metric type is 2 and type 2, I mean the meaning by type 2 is what? Larger than any other linked state path. Larger than any other linked state path. So what does it mean? That it is not gonna to compare it with any other linked state path, because it has already assumed that okay, my metric is larger than any other linked state path. Are you getting my point or not? That is why in case of E2, the total cost will never be shown in routing table. Remember, the total cost will never be displayed inside the router's routing table. You do one thing, move on R9 now. On R9, check show IP route 120.1.0. It is external type 2. You see, and what is the total cost to reach it? 20. Even if you move on R7 as well, and on R7 if you say show IP route 120.1.0, you understand what I mean to say? External type 2, but metric is still 20. Then you can also check your routing table in this manner as well. Show IP route pipe section OE2, because they are coming as E2. So what's the cost? So it's not adding. I mean, in case of E2, it does not show you, it does not display you total cost, cumulative cost inside the routing table. You know why? Because it has already assumed that it has larger cost than any other link state path. Then what is the advantage of adding this cost? If it has already assumed that my cost is higher than any other link state path, then what is the necessity to add the cost of the existing links or transit links? Hey, try it on Sam. If you have said that okay, I am failed, it means you are failed. Whatever I will tell you, okay, this you do this, do this, do this, but you won't do it. Or if you are saying that okay, I'm okay, and I'm asking you to take medicines and all, that you are not okay, but you will not take it, right? Because you have already decided that okay, you are okay. In same manner, if it has decided that okay, my metric is larger than any other link state path, then what is the necessity to add the cost of transit links now? It is already saying that okay, I have already announced it that okay, my cost is higher than any other link state path. My metric is higher than any other link state path. Simple. That's why in case of E2, it does not add the cost of transit links in the routing table. So in routing table, you will never find it, right? Okay. So like we have performed rate distribution on R11 now, and of course from R7, if you trace route anything, like from R7 you try to trace route 120.1.1, you can see that we are going via R11 itself, right? So of course we have to go through the R11, and now let's say that we have got another connection here, and RIP is running in between R8 and R13. So now let's move on R8 and say show IP route RIP. It's not receiving anything. Previously it was receiving, but now it is not receiving. Why? Because via OSPF it has received the same prefixes but with lower AD value. I got my point. So if you perform redistribution here from RIP into OSPF, it will not take place. Now if you perform redistribution on R8 from RIP into OSPF, it will not take place. Are you getting my point or not?
Yes.
Because R8 is not having anything inside the routing table learnt via RIP. Because R8 have started to receive the same prefixes via OSPF as well.
Yeah.
So it have stopped to receive anything via RIP due to AD value. To solve this problem, what can we do? We can configure EICRP itself in between R8 and R13 now in place of EICRP. So once I will configure EICRP here in between R8 and R13 as well, you will see that it will start to preferred via EICRP, and then after we can redistribute back this EICRP into OSPF. So let's move on R8 now, and here say no router RIP. In same manner you can move on R13 now, and on R13 also you can say no router RIP. Then you can say router EICRP 100 node assembly network 000, and then you can move back on R8, and on R8 also you can configure this command router EICRP 100 not assembly, and then network I think it's using 138.1 so it must form EICRP neighborship now. Show IP route EICRP. See, now it has learned all these 120 prefixes via EICRP. Is not it? So because it has already learned all these 120 prefixes via EICRP, now we can redistribute it into OSPF. So do one thing, say router OSPF 1, say redistribute EICRP 100, and then that's I configured the same command on R11 itself, right? Great. Now if you move on R7, show IP OSPF border router. How many ASBRs are there? R8 and R11. On R11, capital I is there because R11 is existing in different area. Whereas on 8888, small I is there because this ASBR is existing within an area. I mean, this is intra area. I'm on R7. Right? So this time, if you see its routing table, so IP route 120.1.0, so its best path is via 8. It's not via 11. See? You know why? Because if you check show IP OSPF, you see from both it is receiving it as E2. It should have performed equal cost load balancing. Are you getting my point or not? Because seed metric is 20 in both cases, but still it is not performing equal cost load balancing. So of course it will not perform equal cost load balancing. It can perform equal cost load balancing if the cost to reach ASBRs is also same. However, in routing table it will never show you the cumulative cost, but during path selection it will definitely compare cumulative cost during path selection. So it does not mean that if it is coming E2 and if you have performed redistribution on both ends, then it will always perform equal cost load balancing. No, it will never happen. Let me show you. Show IP OSPF border router. The very first thing, the cost to reach 11 is what? 320, and the cost to reach 888 is what? 64. Even if you check show IP OSPF database external for 120.1.0, seed metric will be same. See whether it is generated by R8 or R11. Let me show you whether it is generated by R8 or R11. See, seed metric is what? 20. So there is no difference in their seed metrics, but still its best path is via R8 due to total cost to reach and ASBR. So I hope that you have understood it now. Have you got this point or not? Now in perspective of R3, I think not from R3. Actually, is there any router from where the cost would be same? No, there is no router from where we can get the same cost to reach both ASBRs. Like if I move on R2, even you can move on R2, R3, no. Okay, let's see. Maybe from R3 we can have same equal cost, right? So from R2 you see show IP OSPF border routers. So how many ASBRs are there? 2 R11 as well as I'm on R2, right? And on for R11 it is having a small I, and what is the cost to reach it? 128. And to reach R8 is also working as an ASBR, and to reach it lowest cost is what? 192. However, it can also reach it via another neighbor as well, but the cost will be 320. So we will always compare the lowest cost. So the lowest cost to reach 888 is 192, whereas the cost to reach this 1111 is 128. So definitely its best path to reach all these prefixes must be via R11. So now you can see show IP route 120.1.0. From here you can see that okay, its best path is via R11 to reach this external prefix, is not it? Then you do one thing, move on R3, and from R3 you say show IP OSPF border router. The cost to reach R8 as well as the cost to reach R11 is what? Equal. It's same. This time it's cost, but you should remember that here it is also performing equal cost for this as well, right? I mean for 888 itself, right? So now if you configure show IP route and then 120.1.0, so you see equal cost load balancing among 3 different paths, because it was already performing equal cost load balancing to reach 888 itself from here, because R3 can reach this 888 via R5 as well as via R4. Hello.
Yes.
R3 can reach this 888 via R5 as well as via R4, and the cost will be same. So load balancing is done for 888 as well as for 11, because from R3 the cost to reach 11 via R1 is what? 192, which is same. So it has to perform load balancing among 3 paths. That is why you see 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8 and then 11, 11, because by default maximum path is what? 4. So it can install up to 4 paths for a single destination network.
The metric 20 use the
Just to tell that okay, I'm not a preferred path. Just to tell that I am not a preferred path. But if from everywhere you are getting 20, 20, 20, it doesn't, I mean, it's not like that no one will be preferred now. I get a point. It will be used in case of E1 and E2. Like if you are receiving some route as E1, then E1 will always preferred over E2. In case of primary and secondary, to define your path as primary and secondary, you can configure this E1 and E2. Hello.
Yes.
Still, I have not taught you anything about the E2, but remember that E1 it will always prefer over E2. So in that case, I will be using the concept of E1 and E2.
Even add कर देता है.
Exactly. It will always
इसी root metric 20 में add करेगा.
exactly. So in E1, you will see that inside routing table, it will always show you the total cost. I mean cumulative cost, right? Whereas in case of E2, it will always show you only and only seed metric inside its routing table. But in case if from both neighbors you are receiving the same prefixes as E2 itself, then I have told you that how will they perform their path selection. Have you understood it or not? For sure. So it will check its total cost. And one more thing here now I would like to tell you. Based on seed metric also you can perform path selection. Based on seed metric also you can perform path selection. You can manipulate your path selection. Let's say that for all devices in this diagram, I want that the path via R11 should be preferred. I mean this R11 should be primary link. This link must be primary link for all of them. So what do you do? Go, I mean move on R8 and change its seed metric. Configure it higher than the seed metric of R11. By default seed metric is what? 20. Now let's do one thing. Move on R8. And because we performed redistribution here from ESCP into OSPF after subnet, say metric and is what? 21, which is higher than 20. Remember, before comparing the total cost, it will check their seed metric. It will check their seed metric. So now because it's having lower seed metric via R11 itself, so now you will see that on R7 itself, its best path will become via R11. Let's move on R7 now and check its route. Previously its best path was via R8, but you see that based on seed metric also it can perform path selection. Right? So I hope that you people have understood it, that if you are receiving, if your router is receiving same prefix from 2 different neighbors as E2, then what will happen, or you can say like how will they elect their best path, right? And one more thing that I would like to tell you here, seed metric, yeah, of course seed metric is taking place over there, right? I can also use here forwarding address. In type 5 LSA, generally you have seen that forwarded address is what? 0000. Let me show you. Show IP OSPF database external for 120.1.0. This is external LSA generated by R11 as well as R8. But you see forwarding address is what by default? So in type 5 LSA, in original type 5 LSAs, in most of the cases, not in most of the cases, in all cases, generally you will see 00000, which means it will never look for forwarding address. It will never look for forwarding address if your forwarding address is 000. However, during an SSA LSA, during type 7 LSAs, you cannot perform anything without forwarding address. I will let you know that what is the actual uses of this forwarding address, but this time I am also going to prove it in case of type 5 LSA as well. What will I do? I will add forwarding address. Now question is that how can we add forwarding address manually inside type 5 LSAs?
In OSPF.
What?
Maybe we can do only in OSPF.
Of course, we can do only, I mean, we can do some configuration only and only an ASBR to add this forwarding address. See, on R11, just check it out. On R11, I redistributed this EICRP into, you remember? Of course, we redistributed EICRP into OSPF, and this 112 was redistributed into OSPF, and it is going as external prefix. Now, do one thing. The route which you have already redistributed into OSPF, also advertise it into the OSPF. Also advertise it into OSPF with using network command, and then after you will see that it will be used as a forwarding address. On R11, I have already redistributed this 112 into OSPF because 112 was part of EICRP, and I have already redistributed EICRP into OSPF. Now do one thing, go to OSPF and then, go to interface FA0/0 and advertise it into area 3. Once you will advertise it into OSPF, however, it is also redistributing into OSPF. So if you have redistributed anything into OSPF and also you are advertising that prefix in OSPF with using network command as well, try to get my point. If you are redistributing any prefix into OSPF and also you are advertising the same prefix into OSPF, then inside type 5 LSA that address will go as a forwarding address, but neighbor's address, because R11 is getting all these 120's prefixes from its neighbor 112.1.1.12. Previously it was not having that forwarding address inside type 5 LSA, but if you want to add this information into type 5 LSA, then do one thing, advertise this network into OSPF. Advertise this network which is running in between R11 and R12 into OSPF now. So move on R11 and just enable OSPF on this interface as well. Now, then after running this command, you will see that forwarding address will be added inside all type 5 LSAs. Let me show you. Show IP OSPF database. First of all, you must see type 5 LSAs. This time there will be only 5 type 5 LSAs, because for 112 there will not be any type 5 LSA. See, for 112 there is no type 5 LSA. You know why? Because you have advertised that 112 into OSPF. So intra area, are you getting my, intra area will always preferred over external. That's why here you are not having any type 5 LSA for 112 network now. But if you open IP OSPF database external 120.1.0, you see generated by R11.
Yeah.
Which means that these prefixes were coming from this neighbor, and this information will be available on all devices now. Even if you move on R7, try to OSPF database. See, so in this way you can add forwarding address, because we were getting them from R12. Do you remember? Hello?
Yes.
We were getting them from R12 itself here. And after advertising this prefix, this 112 into OSPF, now you can see that forwarding address has been added into it.
In the F010 interface.
What? हाँ, तो कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, उससे क्या प्रॉब्लम हुई? नहीं चला हुआ, दोनों चला हुआ। EICRP, तभी तो EICRP नेबरशिप है साथ में, उसमें भी एडवर्टाइज कर दिया मैंने इसको। तो अब यह है ना कि मैंने EICRP को रिडिस्ट्रीब्यूट कराया OSPF में और साथ में इसको एडवर्टाइज भी कर दिया। विच वन विल बी प्रीफर्ड? जो एडवर्टाइज कराया वही होगा ना प्रीफर्ड, तो बट फॉरवर्डिंग एड्रेस ऐड कर दिया अब इसने। इसका एडवांटेज ये हुआ।
इसको नेटवर्क कमांड से भी ऐड कर सकते हैं?
ऑफ कोर्स course. You can use anything. So now let's move back on R7. Do you remember that I changed seed metric on R8?
On R8.
It's 21.
21.
Now do one thing, check show IP route 120.1.0. Its best path is still via R11. It means the total cost to reach forwarding address is still not taking place for their best path selection. Are you getting my point or not? See, because this time you have got this forwarding address here inside type 5 LSA, so it will also calculate the total cost to reach this forwarding address as well. But this time, if it calculates the total cost to reach this forwarding address, then of course it will be higher than via R8. But still it is not taking place over seed metric, right? But let me tell you one thing, if seed metric is equal, are you getting my point? If seed metric is equal, let's say that you are on R8 now, you are on R8, and during redistribution you configure seed metric as 21, make it 20 once again. So now seed metric is equal, but this time you will see that forwarding address, I mean the total cost to reach forwarding address will take place to elect your best path. Forwarding address, I mean the cost to reach forwarding address will also take place to elect your best path. And let me prove it. Previously R3 was performing equal cost load balancing. Do you remember?
Yeah.
When seed metric was equal, and this time it's
Not done for R7.
it is performing equal cost load balancing for R8 only, not for R11. Previously it was performing load balancing among R11 as well. See, but this time it is not. You know why? Due to forwarding address. You do one thing, move again on R9, and previously its best path was via R11, and still its best path is what? Via R11. You know why? Because this time if you open show IP OSPF database external 120.1.0, the forwarding address is what? 112.1.1.12, and its cost is what? Check it out. Show IP route 112.1.12 is what? 74, right? Whereas show IP OSPF border router, the cost to reach R8 is what?
3.
So which one is preferred now? Which one is preferred from R9? And if you move on R1, see, show IP OSPF border router, the cost to reach R8 is what? 256. Whereas total cost to reach that forwarding address, show IP route 112 is what? 138. So if you check its best path for 120.1.0 for external path, its best path is via R11 itself. But remember, this time it has started to compare the cost to reach forwarding address. Right? So if seed metric is equal, then it will check the cost to reach forwarding address. And if let's say that in this case via R8 there was no forwarding address, right? There was no forwarding address. If it is receiving forwarding address via one ASBR and via another ASBR it is not receiving forwarding address, then what will it do? It will check the cost to reach forwarding address via that ASBR from where it is getting forwarding address, right? And from that ASBR from which it is not getting any forwarding address, it will calculate the total cost to reach that ASBR, and it will compare that cost. See, so many things are there to discuss, but I will stop this topic now, because it will make you confused now if I start to discuss it in more details. So I hope that you have understood that how can we manipulate even E2 as well. So it's not that if you have redistributed anything into SPF as E2, it means that it is always necessary that it will perform load balancing. No, it does not perform load balancing. It will perform load balancing in one case only, when seed metric and cost to reach and ASBR, both of them are same. In that case only it can perform equal cost load balancing. Otherwise, there is no possibilities in case of E2 as well to perform load balancing in OSPF. Have you understood it now or not?
सर R1 की कॉस्ट जो हम कैलकुलेट करेंगे
Yes.
फॉरवर्डिंग एड्रेस
Yes.
तो दो लिंक की 128 कॉस्ट हो गई 64.
Yeah, 128 plus Ethernet's cost is 10.
Okay. R1 पे forwarding address की कॉस्ट दिखती है?
Yes, show IP route because it was advertised into OSPF. Because I advertised that forwarding address into OSPF, that's why we are able to see the entire cost. Okay, forget about it now. Move on R11. Go to FA0/0, no IP OSPF 1 area 3. Remove it. Now there will not be any forwarding address. So I hope that you have understood the basic rules of path selection in case of E2. Now
अभी भी R1 का शूट होगा ना 112?
nothing. Let's go for E1 now. Oh my god. Move on R3. It was performing load balancing among R8 only. I mean via R8, but this time you will see that this R11 will also be included. D2.
R1
This was the 10.
My god. On R1 what?
अब वो जो नेटवर्क को redistribute हो रहा है.
What? Yep. So this time it will show you only 20. क्या है? ओए. हाँ तो उससे नहीं मुझसे पूछो. हाँ तो कोई बात नहीं. Fine.
So in the previous case, even the 10.
यही फेल कराएगा वहाँ. ऐसी चीजें फेल कराती हैं उधर.
फॉरवर्ड एड्रेस ठीक है बट वो जाएगा तो एएसबीआर के थ्रू ही जाएगा.
हाँ तो मैंने कब मना किया? मैं तो बस पाथ सिलेक्शन की बात कर रहा हूँ. मैं तो यही कह रहा हूँ कि वहाँ पे जब टी शूट में क्वेश्चन आता है ना इस तरह का, तो फेल यही चीज़ें कराती हैं कि क्या चेंज करें कि उस तरफ से चला जाए. फॉरवर्डिंग एड्रेस आ रहा होता है, कई बार गलती से एडवर्टाइज कर देते हैं वो, मतलब टी शूट में इंजेक्ट कर देते हैं, तो वो फॉरवर्डिंग एड्रेस हटाना है, उसको रिमूव करना पड़ेगा वहाँ से एडवर्टाइज कराने के लिए, जिससे कि पाथ सिलेक्शन मैनिपुलेट हो जाए. मतलब मैं नहीं कह रहा कुछ भी, मत समझो, भूल जाओ. फॉरगेट अबाउट एवरीथिंग व्हाट यू लर्नड बिफोर रिलेटेड टू E2.
ये एक्स्ट्रा फीचर का समझ.
ना एक्स्ट्रा फीचर तो नहीं है तो OSPF का ही फीचर. चलो कोई नहीं. इट इज डन नाउ. फाइन. नाउ because by default all prefixes are going as E2, we can also force our ASPRs to advertise them E1 as well. So let's say that my primary link is via R8. This is my primary. So what can I do? I can configure here E1, and on R11 I will configure it as E2. I mean it will remain as E2. So let's move back on R8 and let's perform redistribution once again. And this time say metric type is what? 1. Once you will say 1, now for all routers, even for R9 and R10 itself, its best path will become via. Have you understood it now? But not for R11, because R11 is receiving them via ESERP. So its AD value is here 90. Via OSPF it will be 110. So if you move on R9 now, and if you see show IP route 120.1.0, check it out via. This is the advantage of E2 and E1. So as per your primary link and secondary link, you can define your metric type. Like for an example, you are having this type of diagram. Let's say this is ISP1, this is ISP2, this is R1, R2, R3, R4, R5. Something like this, right? And here this is customer's network, and in between you are running OSPF, right? And here in between ISP and customer BGP, between customer and ISP is what? BGP. This is your primary link, and this is what? Secondary link. You have to redistribute BGP into OSPF on both routers. Do one thing here, configure your metric type as E1, so that for all routers its best path will become via R1, and on R5 configure its metric type as E2, so that in case if E1, I mean if in case if primary link goes down, then the entire traffic will be Understood? So in this way you can use the concept of E1 and E2, and that's what we have proved here. So remember, E1 will always preferred over E2. However, you can see the total cost. See, move on R9. The cost to reach border of ASBRs to reach 8 is 320, whereas to reach 11 is just 64. And seed metric given by both of them is same. So IPOSPF is database external 120.1.0. See, seed metric is also same. Given by R8 is 20, whereas given by R11 is also 20. But still it is preferring via R8. You know why? Because via R8 comparable directly to link state metric. Whereas in the meaning by 2 is what? Larger than any other link state path. So of course E1 will always preferred over E2. Have you understood it or not? So what I said that this path selection cannot be manipulated by using either cost or administrative distance value as well. So this time you can see that the cost to reach R11 is lower than to reach R8, but still its best path is via R8 only, because E1 will always preferred over E2.
Okay, so that's the end of today's video. So I hope you learned something new today. We'll be coming with few more videos of OSPF, guys. See you later. Thank you.